Streaming used to make choosing something easier. Now, most people spend more time scrolling than actually watching anything. That's basically what the streaming wars became in 2026. Not who has the most content, because every platform does. The real competition now is who actually has something worth watching tonight, or something big enough to get excited for months before release. And for this list, we're separating what's streaming now, what's coming soon, and what's hitting theaters first before landing on streaming later. Netflix has massive returning shows like the Bridgerton Season 4 and One Piece Season 2. Disney Plus is pushing harder into Marvel and Star Wars with projects like Daredevil Born Again and The Mandalorian and Grogu. Prime Video somehow became the home of chaotic genre television, and HBO Max still feels like the platform people trust most when they want something genuinely great. So this isn't really a ranking of streaming services, it's a breakdown of what's actually worth watching, binging, or looking forward to across each platform right now. The current hits, the returning favorites, and the upcoming releases people already have on their watch lists. And one platform here honestly is much stronger in 2026 than people expected. Starting with the streaming app people complain about constantly while still opening almost every night. Number 4, Netflix. Netflix still is the easiest streaming app to accidentally lose an entire night to. Not because everything on there is amazing, because Netflix understands momentum better than anybody else. You finish one episode, autoplay hits instantly, and suddenly it's 2 a.m. and you're emotionally invested in a pirate adventure, a relationship scandal, or a psychological breakdown you weren't even planning to start. And right now, Bridgerton Season 4 is still one of the platform's biggest binge traps. The new season leans even harder into romance, drama, social politics, and giant emotional misunderstandings that somehow become life or death situations in people's minds. Every episode feels designed to end with, okay, fine, one more. And somehow that turns into 4 more. Then there's Beef Season 2, which is way sharper and more emotionally uncomfortable than most streaming dramas. What makes the show work is how quickly tiny frustrations spiral into complete personal destruction. Arguments become obsessions. Ego becomes self-sabotage. People keep making worse decisions because nobody knows how to let anything go. And the tension gets painfully real sometimes because the conflicts feel so recognizable. For giant current hit energy, One Piece Season 2 looks like one of Netflix's biggest surprises. Live-action anime adaptations usually fail immediately because they either become embarrassed by the source material or try too hard to fix it. One Piece does the opposite. The series fully commits to giant pirate adventures, ridiculous powers, emotional backstories, and chaotic optimism without constantly apologizing for how weird the world is. That sincerity is exactly why people got attached to it so fast. Next, we have Apex, which is for pure Netflix late night viewing. Fast pacing, survival tension, big action energy, exactly the type of movie people randomly start at midnight planning to watch 20 minutes of, and then accidentally finish the entire thing. Netflix honestly understands this style of watch better than almost anybody. And finally, there's Peaky Blinders. At this point, the show almost feels less like a crime series and more like a permanent Netflix mood people revisit constantly. The industrial gray visuals, the modern music blasting over 1920s Birmingham, Cillian Murphy somehow making every sentence sound threatening. Even people who barely remember every plot detail still go back because the atmosphere is so specific that one episode immediately pulls you back into that world again. That's Netflix in 2026. Not necessarily the most consistent platform, but still probably the easiest one to open when you have absolutely no idea what you want to watch. If you're constantly looking for something genuinely good to watch before the entire internet catches up to it, subscribe. We do movie and streaming recommendations like this every week. And if you want something way more intense after this, we also ranked the best modern thrillers with Nolan-level tension on the channel. Number 3, Disney. Disney Plus is much more focused in 2026 than it did a few years ago. For a while, the platform felt like it was relying almost entirely on nostalgia. Now it feels more like Disney finally realized people mainly open the app for worlds they already want to spend time in. And right now, Daredevil Born Again Season 2 is probably the clearest sign Marvel is moving back towards smaller, more grounded storytelling again. This time, Matt Murdock gets pulled deeper into street-level violence, legal corruption, and personal conflicts that actually feel dangerous because they aren't about saving the multiverse every 10 minutes. The fights feel heavier, the conversations feel more tense, and the darker tone honestly helps the entire show. Then there's The Punisher: One Last Kill, which is much harsher than typical MCU projects. Frank Castle's stories only really work when they feel angry, emotionally damaged, and slightly uncomfortable to watch sometimes. And from everything surrounding the project so far, Disney seems fully aware of that, instead of trying to turn Punisher into safe superhero material. Even people exhausted by comic book shows seem genuinely curious about it. Next is Wonder Man, which might quietly become one of Marvel's strangest projects simply because it leans so heavily into Hollywood satire. The entire setup revolves around an actor getting pulled into the superhero world, dealing with celebrity culture and entertainment industry chaos at the same time. And Marvel probably needs more projects willing to feel weird again instead of constantly chasing giant crossover events. For prestige drama viewing, The Testaments gives Disney Plus something it honestly needed more of: serious dystopian television outside the normal franchise machine. Set in the world of The Handmaid's Tale, the story explores a new generation growing up under Gilead's control, and the entire concept already feels uncomfortable in the exact way dystopian stories are supposed to. And finally, there's the upcoming The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is hitting theaters first before eventually landing on Disney Plus later. It looks less like new content and more like Disney understanding that Grogu became one of the safest entertainment investments on Earth. At this point, audiences already know exactly what they're showing up for: space western action, familiar Star Wars worlds, and Grogu doing something adorable every 15 minutes while the internet immediately turns it into reaction images. That's basically Disney Plus in 2026. Less what random thing should I try tonight, more which world do I already want to go back to. Number 2, Prime Video. Prime Video is the streaming service most likely to surprise you accidentally. Not because the app is organized well. Honestly, half the time it's like Amazon threw prestige TV, giant sci-fi projects, superhero chaos, action thrillers, and random forgotten movies into one giant pile and just hoped people would sort it out themselves. And weirdly, people kind of have. Because if you open Prime Video tonight, the platform works best when you're in the mood to stumble into something unexpectedly addictive. For giant mainstream viewing, The Boys Season 5 is more unpredictable than most franchise television. The show throws viewers into a world where superheroes behave more like celebrities, corporations, and walking disasters than actual heroes. And part of why people stay hooked is because every episode feels one bad decision away from total catastrophe. 1 minute it's satire, the next complete horror. Then suddenly somebody says something genuinely emotional before another character explodes 5 minutes later. That chaos is basically the show's identity now. Then there's Project Hail Mary, one of Prime Video's biggest sci-fi swings. The setup alone is strong enough to trap people immediately. A man wakes up alone on a spaceship with no memory of how he got there, only to slowly realize he might be humanity's last chance to stop an extinction-level disaster. And that sounds exactly like the kind of movie people start just to test and accidentally finish at 3 a.m. For fantasy comedy viewing, Good Omens Season 3 still has one of the strangest tones anywhere on streaming. The series basically turns biblical apocalypse chaos into something weirdly cozy, mostly because watching an angel and demon argue like an old married couple somehow became the emotional core of the entire show. And that chemistry honestly carries everything. Then there's Jack Ryan Ghost War, which fits perfectly into Prime Video's very watchable political thriller category. Government conspiracies, field missions constantly going wrong, global tension escalating every episode. The show understands exactly how to keep momentum moving without becoming overly complicated, which makes it a perfect late night binge material. And finally, there's another upcoming masterpiece, Spider-Noir. Looking visually different from almost every other superhero streaming show right now, black and white detective atmosphere, old school noir energy, a version of Spider-Man moving through corruption, crime, and shadowy investigations instead of giant CGI sky battles every episode. Even people exhausted by superhero fatigue seem genuinely curious about it. Prime Video might be the weirdest platform here because half the time it feels messy enough to frustrate people, and the other half, it randomly gives you the best thing you watch all week. What streaming app are you genuinely opening almost every night right now? And which one are you honestly only paying for because you forgot to cancel it? Let us know in the comments. Number 1, HBO Max. HBO Max is the platform that finally remembered people don't just want more content anymore. They want trust. Because after years of every streaming service trying to become an endless content machine, HBO Max quietly went back to the one thing people already associated HBO with. If this looks interesting, it's probably worth watching. And that reputation still matters a lot in 2026. If you want one of the biggest upcoming prestige events on the platform, House of the Dragon Season 3 already feels massive long before its release. The next chapter of the Targaryen Civil War is expected to push the conflict into even darker territory, which is exactly why anticipation around the series remains so high. Every alliance, betrayal, and political move in this world is capable of triggering complete catastrophe at any moment. And HBO still knows how to turn television into an actual event. Even before release, casting updates, production news, and fan theories dominate online discussions for days. Every teaser frame gets analyzed, every announcement sparks debates across social media. That level of anticipation is rare now. Then there's The Pitt Season 2, which quietly became one of HBO Max's strongest surprise hits because it seems exhausting in the best possible way. The show throws viewers directly into the non-stop chaos of an emergency room where doctors are constantly forced to make impossible decisions while everything around them keeps escalating. No giant cliffhanger gimmicks, just pressure that never really stops. That stress level becomes weirdly addictive. Next, we have Euphoria Season 3. At this point, the show is more of an internet phenomenon than a television series. The story keeps diving deeper into addiction, self-destruction, relationships, and emotional collapse. But what people really remember are the emotions, the lighting, the music, the panic attacks, the uncomfortable arguments that feel way too real. Even people who stopped watching still know exactly when new episodes drop because social media instantly turns into chaos again. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which gives HBO something it honestly needed after years of giant war-scale fantasy television. Instead of huge battles and dragons every episode, the story focuses on Sir Duncan the Tall and his young squire Egg traveling across Westeros decades before Game of Thrones. The scale is smaller, the tone is quieter, and weirdly, that makes the world feel bigger again. Not every fantasy story needs to end with cities exploding. And finally, coming very soon, Lanterns. People are watching this project carefully, not because audiences automatically trust DC again, but because the series genuinely sounds different from the usual superhero formula. Every detail suggests the show will lean far more into mystery, investigation, and grounded sci-fi storytelling instead of non-stop multiverse spectacle. That shift alone has made Lanterns one of DC's more intriguing upcoming projects. And that approach already makes it feel more interesting than a lot of the comic book shows currently crowding streaming platforms. That's basically HBO Max in 2026. Not the biggest library, not the loudest platform, just the one people seem to trust the most when they want something genuinely good tonight. And actually, the #1 streaming platform right now might not be the cheapest or biggest, but it probably has the smallest chance of wasting your time. The fun part is, that's what streaming became in 2026. Not which platform has the most content. At this point, all of them do. The real difference is which app understands the mood you're in when you open it. Netflix is built for binge spirals. Disney Plus became comfort viewing. Prime Video survives on chaos and random discoveries. And HBO Max feels like the safest bet when you just want something genuinely good. And honestly, audiences don't even stay loyal to platforms anymore. People subscribe for one show, leave, then come back 2 months later for something else. That's basically streaming now, temporary obsessions. So, what's one movie or show you started recently that ended up being way better than you expected? Let us know in the comments.